All right, and we're live. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for stopping by Indie Dave Comics. I, of course, of Indie Dave, your host for the evening. And now your dogs are going.
they're, they're barking.
All right, so we just dropped the link, so it might be a few minutes if anybody shows up at all. Let's see. So we're talking about your book, Lucas. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
So the first book, that was a standalone story, really designed just to introduce the character, kind of take a real familiar trope in horror and I guess turn it upside down on its head. The next book that I've got planned is a follow up to that will contain the first original story and then four others.
All right, so you're going to reprint the original?
I'm going to add it in there. Yep.
Okay.
And then I've got the idea I've got for the book. What I'm going to be doing is the original story plus three of the new ones are going to be kind of staggered the way that they're going to be in the book. So rather than just reading, the one story, then the next, and then the next, the four of them are going to be kind of cut together.
Okay.
Kind of ending, at the same time, and then one of the stories will finish off the book.
All right. So what's it? Tell us. Lucas is the main character. What's the book about?
So Lucas is a killer, a slasher type of a character, one of the single brute types. In the first story, the way it works out, so you've got this family, a psychopathic, cannibalistic type family that's keeps their victims far off the beaten path, torturing them, so on and so forth. So the story kind of opens up while that's all taking place, and Lucas shows up on the scene and kind of starts stalking and picking the family members off one at a time. So rather than the typical horror story like that plays out, everything gets thrown into disarray, and then he ultimately kills them all. So it's kind of a vague introduction to the character. He comes in kind of like a force of nature, judgment against them. The victims that they've got on hand get away, but it's more coincidental. He's not really there to help them as much as he is there to kill off this family.
Now, is it personal between him and the family, or does he just not like what they're doing, or is he just in the mood to kill and just they happen to be in the way?
It's just what he does. Like I said, the book is a bit vague on it. It leaves some questions unanswered intentionally. I had the intention to do some follow-up stuff to kind of explore the idea of who he is more at the time it got published. And at that point in time, so I owned half of the rights to it, and Arcana's who published it, they owned the other half, and we were kind of at a stalemate with the book, so nothing ever happened. But now I get to tell the other stories to flesh it out a lot more. So it's the four stories, the way that they work together, they're all very different scenarios and kind of themes that are real common in horror, but they all have drastically different endings, which I don't want to give them away because it's gonna be fun. But then once those all reach their conclusion, it goes into that last story. In this next book, the last story will be his origin.
Okay. We're gonna go over some of the art here. This isn't a graphic novel in the way that people will think of a graphic novel. It's not really a comic book style. In the description, I put it as kind of a graphic novella. I don't know if you think that's accurate or not. But
I've gotten a lot of different ways people describe it. Nobody knows quite how to box it up.
Yeah. So we're gonna do. Let's see. Save it on mine. Gonna put it on screen share here, and then we're gonna have a quick look at it. All right. So, all right. Here's some. Now you painted all this. You're the artist and the writer.
Yep, whole thing.
All right, so you see, it's like a kind of a almost Jason kind of slasher villain kind of look to him. This him right here, Lucas?
Yeah,
Okay, so
carrying
let's
Jeb.
yeah, we'll run. Don't want to spoil it because you want people to buy it. So, but if you look, it's not a comic book. It's not a graphic novel in that sense. I mean, it's graphic, and it's kind of like a novel because it's written in prose over the art. So it's almost like a storybook. Similar. I mean, it's a little hard to describe, especially since it's horror.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks cool. I just kind of got it tonight, so I haven't had a chance to read it. But the art style is really neat. Is this all like what, oil paints or something?
Everything is digital that I
Oh,
did in
really?
there. Yeah, usually I bounce between a few programs when I'm working to kind of get the look that I'm after. I'll use Painter and then Art Rage and Photoshop Elements is usually what I'm jumping around in.
This is it's real. The art's amazing. It looks really good. I love that kind of painted style, and it really kind of it kind of sets the mood. For what's going on. So let's see. We're gonna read just a little bit of it. Uh, this is in the middle. You can see it's a short dash, eternity to the prey, obviously, but it's all relative. In truth, only minutes. She moves in no particular direction, no goal ahead or promise of escape, just away. Everything's a little off. The beatings were enough, but it was the removal of her ear that sent her just over punch drunk. Her pursuer gallops along, keeping pace. She catches the silhouette of some behemoth to the side of her, thick and strong, swollen, but somehow able to have gained on her. She steps into a cliche that snaps just above her ankle. She picks her face up out of the mud and forces a raspy scream, which in turn is rudely interrupted by the end of a crutch knocking out three of her teeth. Jeb, the mid-level inbred, cornerstone of the family, fanatic in his mission. What he lacks in physical prowess is made up in his sadist demeanor. This is his show. His crutches punch the ground beside the girl in unison, left foot falling just after the right, limp legs and rusted frames held together with bolts and chewed sinew. Empty seats swinging on a Ferris wheel in Chernobyl. Good lord. I love the description. I mean, it's very graphic. It's very descriptive. And like I said, having not read the whole story, that is like it really gets your attention. If you're into this kind of really graphic horror, this is it seems like a really good book. I'm not a particularly horror fan, but I mean this looks great, and I mean if that's what you're into, it reads really good. All the descriptions are really cool. So I'll probably will read this all the way through at some point. So how long have you been like into art?
Um, I guess the easy answer would be always. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you start drawing as soon as you can pick up a crayon. So it's something I've always done. Um, always kind of had. I never really pursued it until my early 20s. Um, I actually considered it might be realistic for me to be able to do something with it. I went to school for interactive graphic design. Um, a long time ago, there was these things called like CD-ROMs,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
you could order an encyclopedia. That's the type of stuff I went to school to learn how to do, and everything is obsolete that
Yeah.
that I paid to learn how to use. But anyway, that led to me getting kind of pushed me back towards getting into comic books and fantastic worlds and horror and all these things that I love. It didn't really. It took a while to start kind of clicking. The grind was pretty long, but more in recent years, I've had a lot more opportunity come my way. I've done a lot of work for Sideshow Collectibles. I had a long run, not super long, but a decent run working with Black Mask, doing stuff for Ghostface Killer's 12 Reasons to Die when he came out with that album and did kind of a comic book crossover. Ended up doing his album art for 36 Seasons.
Oh, wow.
A lot of odd jobs that kind of fit in there. And then I've worked with a small video game studio out of Canada called It's Interactive. Them I've been working with for years now, actually.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we just wrapped up on I did. Wrapped up on a game we've been working on called Mad Devils. It's more like an old school 2-6 shooter style game. Right now, I think it's in the phase where it's getting touched up and fine-tuned and QA'd and all that fun stuff. But once that wrapped up, I was kind of deciding what I wanted to do next. And since Arcana isn't holding the half a Lucas anymore, I thought I'm gonna finally finish this out like I'd wanted to.
So go over a little bit. What was the deal with the rights for the book?
It was just a 50-50 thing. I think I'll say in my opinion, I think they hold on to a lot of stuff, hoping for maybe a licensing deal down the road. That type of a thing.
Some movie studio come along, see it, pick it up.
Yeah. So it didn't really feel to me like there was that much effort put in on getting the book out there. And it was what it was, and I eventually kind of threw my hands up and wrote it off. But as things would have it, the developers that I work with, they actually bought Arcana's rights back from Arcana.
Oh, cool.
So we have, there's that. But now at this point, I can do what I want with the property. So,
all right, this is really good stuff. I'm not really. I'm just kind of I'm skimming the art. I got a real sense of the prose when I read that little paragraph. This is, like I said, I'm not super into like slasher stuff, but this is really well done. I really like how this sets the mood, sets the tone, and the prose in here. Oh, going to the chat, and once again, the Metal is here. Hey, the Metal. He likes and subscribes every single time. He's one of the good ones. He's in the chat all the time. Yeah. So, have you done any like regular sequential stuff before? Is it's all just you said you did album covers and you did video game art and stuff?
It's mostly been like single pieces. I've never really delved into sequential stuff. It's not. I could probably get good at it. It's not a strong point of mine. I know what I'm good at, and then I know what I'm not too great at. So I kind of keep trying to push myself in the areas I know I've already got some strengths. And then this when I did this book, in my head I've got a lot of influences that are maybe something like World War Robot by Ashley Wood. I don't know if you've ever seen that book. It's like a series of this gorgeous artwork and kind of mixed in with like letters, the way it tells the story. Or if you've ever seen the Soul Stealer books, that was Christopher Shy's work. It's
so I think I've heard of it. I don't remember.
Maybe in the same ballpark as like Ben Templesmith's ish type of stuff. But anyway, those are a lot of things that had a big impact on me. And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I don't have to like follow this model. I can probably do this my way and make it work. So that's what I decided to do with this. On the next book, it is it's on my mind the way that I'm planning on staggering these 4 stories uh, to possibly change up the art style for each story to make it a little
Okay.
easier to follow. I'm trying to think ahead and wonder if it might cause some confusion if it all looked like this. So I'm still kind of mulling the best solution for that aspect of it. So
Yeah.
I might do some sequential stuff in it.
Okay. So I would say that you go with is all the stories basically a similar tone? I
Uh,
mean, everybody has their own writing style. Is it all going to be this kind of the dark kind of graphic horror, or is it going to be this some stories going to be a little more, I don't know, a little less. I don't want to tell you what to do or whatever. Is some of it going to be a little less graphic? Is it going to be more I don't even know how to say it. Are the tones going to be pretty much the same throughout all the stories?
it's going to be dark. It's going to
Okay.
be kind of heavy-handed horror. Um, yeah, yeah. So the four stories, like I said, they all kind of play with different kind of cliches. They're a wonderful part of horror, but then they all end very, very differently. But they all will be really dark. And then actually, the last story being his art origin, I think it'll be the worst one of, of all of them. So I'm trying to, you know, there's a lot I'm kind of considering now on how I want to, if I want to give it some levity. Uh, maybe I don't want to I don't
Make
know.
that last one a romantic comedy.
Yeah, sure. That'll work great.
Uh,
And the thing of it is, like, there's all kinds of horror that I like.
mm,
Like if you look at when you had Cal and Rob on here with Shinobi Sasquatch,
yeah.
that to me is it's a form of horror, it's a type of horror, but it's a lot more fun.
Hmm.
Which I do very much enjoy. Or something like Long Harbor. Another one
Yeah,
going right
yeah.
now.
That one's on my list. I haven't backed that one yet, but that one's on my list. Long Harbor looks
Yeah,
really good. I'm really into the kind of the Lovecraftian stuff.
yeah, yeah. They're gorgeous books, and they kind of are in their own areas of it. And then I'm coming in here, and I'm I'm thinking, what can I do to really bother people? What can I do to make them feel uncomfortable?
So, where'd you come up with the idea for this?
The idea, to be honest, so I was working at this hotel years back, and
Hmm.
I was working on the night shift. It was like kind of like the late shift, and then I was also doing these graveyards. And so horror is something I always consume, but at this particular job, I was consuming it like a really, really high rate, mostly on the
Yeah.
Sci-Fi Channel. And you're just sitting there taking it in, and you're thinking like it's got to be something different.
Hmm.
Somebody can come up with a different way to tell this type of a story, or change it up. And that's kind of where it evolved. And it was actually there that I started writing it. I started outlining it and putting everything in there that I kind of wanted. And
I like this.
that's
I think
where
I'm probably going to use this picture here for the thumbnail for the video. Really cool picture. Yeah, I work nights. I work overnights, and I've probably worked nights most of the jobs I've been at. And
Mhm.
I know there are sometimes wherever it is you are, you just kind of sit there and it's dark, and then you're like, well, what if like something were to come out and grab me out of the dark? Just the kind of things that like get into your head,
Right.
and that's the kind of stuff that makes good stories. Like I said, I like Lovecraft. I'm not into stuff like Saw and that kind of stuff, but I like monster type stuff.
Yeah.
That's really my thing. But I mean, this is I really like the art style on this. This looks really good. It's really really kind of I want to say minimalist. I mean, because it's hard. You kind of have to put it together in your head a little bit.
Hmm.
But it's really cool. I like it. Oh man. So all right. So Where did you go to school for art, or did you mostly self-taught?
Yeah, most of what I'm doing is self-taught. Like I said, when I'd gone to college, right, to get a grown up job, everything I learned there was media programs, which um, they don't exist.
Yeah.
Uh, my first teacher there, though, Ken Cruzen, he had the biggest impact on me, kind of pulling me back into it because he made us do everything traditionally, old school. Everything was by hand. You know, you had to take the letter T and you had to make it at 14 point by hand and then blow it up to so many times larger and do all this stuff you know perfectly the way he wanted it done. But he was more into this foundational kind of stuff. But through his class, he'd give us the assignment. You're gonna use these tools in this medium and so on and so forth, but you can create whatever you want. So it kind of got me drawing again, and it kind of reignited me going back down that path. And then pretty much from there it was, I got out of school. I never got a job making encyclopedias for CD-ROM, or making AOL discs, and it just kind of went from there. Started looking at a lot more and exploring a lot more programs, and everything starts jumping out at you differently. You just see stuff and you're thinking, how did they do that? How did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of there it went.
Yeah, I'm just kind of working off of books. I just decided I used to draw. When I was a kid in high school, I would draw. It was mostly aping what I saw in comic books, and from my favorite stuff. I never really learned any technique. I never really learned anatomy and all that stuff. And I suppose I always say, if I had kept at it, maybe I'd be doing it today. But so I'm picking it up a little bit at a time now. No real lesson plan, just kind of drawing random stuff and getting anatomy down and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to do. The books are helpful. It's good to learn those basic, foundational type things, compositions, and balancing out black and white type stuff before you start getting in to see how you can rearrange it all, put your
Yeah,
own twist on it.
yeah. So
And
go ahead.
oh yeah, I was saying what you're saying about aping styles and stuff. That was a big part of growing up. Always
Yeah,
bust out the comic books and you're trying to copy everything that you see. It's a good learning technique for a period of time anyway.
I always thought it would be easier and not so much like my favorite comic was like the Max, and I like Sam Keith and Simon Bisley and those kind of guys. And at the time I was like, well, I know I'm not as good as them, but it's very. I always thought in my head, oh, cartoony must be easier because you don't have to follow any real rules. But it's not. It's not at all. Because you still have to have some sort of consistency, and it still has to look good. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it looks like a bunch of funny little pictures.
yeah. That's funny that you mentioned them because those are two guys that had a huge impact on me when I was younger. It was the issue Sam Keith did for the Incredible Hulk. Um, it was Incredible Hulk versus Doctor Hyde, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I remember finding that at a comic shop, and I was like, hey, "This looks different than everything else. Like, what is this?" It blew my mind. And then with Bisley, it was, and I still actually have the book. We were on this road trip with my family, and we stopped at this a little gas station or something like that, and there was a comic rack, and they had um, that Batman Judge Dredd book that he did forever ago,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I bought it on this trip. I still have the book, and I was like, "This is nuts! This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life." I loved it.
See, I didn't. I go back now. Like a couple of years ago, I sold all my comics
Hmm.
from like collected in like the 80s and 90s. All of them. I sold them all, and I didn't think I was going to get back into comics ever again. And then a couple of years later, I started watching Zach's videos, and I I got back into comics, and now I regret selling all those comics because I'll find stuff. Because I'm on the Twitters, and people will be like, "Oh yeah, this artist did this way back in the day," and I'm like, "Oh, I had that one."
Yeah.
And I found out I had adolescent radioactive black belt hamsters, that Ninja Turtle parody, and Sam Keefe did a few issues of that, and I was like, "Oh, I had those issues." And it's one of those things where you look back on it, and I didn't realize, who did what and who was, doing stuff at the time, because at the time I wasn't really paying attention to the artists. When I really started paying attention was when Image started, when that whole big, thing happened. That's when I really was like, oh yeah, that's when artists were really rock stars.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was really into the Max. I was like, oh, Sam Keith is cool. And then, I started seeing stuff like Lobo and, those guys doing those books. And all that stuff is like, wow, that's so different from like, I don't want to put down Jack Kirby, but it's just so different from like the early Marvel, and DC type stuff.
Yeah. It was all, that was a good time. I remember that. I did the same thing too. I don't even know how many comic books I unloaded over the years that I wish I never did, but I have some that somehow survived. I still have them. I don't really know how that worked out, but I'm glad it did. I've still got my Arkham Asylum. I mean, I could probably just re-get it, but I still have that. I still have the Max comics that I'd bought. I think I've got 1 through 6, and then when the appearances he made in was it Darker Image? Is that what they would do, those little trilogies?
Yeah, I had one Darker Image book. I remember that, and I remember I had like I kick myself the most because I had the first Deadpool, the first appearance of Deadpool, and that just went with my comic collection. I didn't even think to take that one out.
Yeah.
And then looking back, I had a few. I mean, I didn't have any of the big issues like the Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy 15, that kind of stuff. I didn't have anything like that, but I had a few in there that I kicked myself because I'll see somebody will be posting about stuff. Oh yeah, I found this at the dollar bin, and I'm like, even though I know it was in the dollar bin, I'm like, oh man, I have that issue. It was a great issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then with Lucas, that's with the, I don't know how I would put it, with the whole kind of comic book world, I guess. With Lucas, I'm kind of mulling how to approach the book.
The Indiegogo or
not that part. It's more the audience for it, because I know it's not a comic book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where it's like I want to get it in front of fans of comic books, but I know full and well that it's a book some people would hate, some people would love it.
Yeah, it's I think the subject matter is what sells the comic it's not really a comic. The subject matter is what sells the book, and the art over. I think you're going to find more of your audience if you find where the horror people are, because
Right.
And it's not that people like comic books like good art, and the art's great, but I think you're probably going to find your biggest audience under like I saw that you were posting about going to some other what are they called, podcasts. They talk about horror and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think that's probably where your audience. I'm not saying not to spread the love everywhere, but that's probably where you're going to get your most interest.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I've been thinking. I started thinking to myself, I should probably also look at just horror fans.
Mm-hmm.
Probably for the most part, it's going to be fans of horror movies, but I want to try and find those people that would still buy a book as well.
I'll tell you a guy that loves horror is Umbrella Guy. He's so into horror. You get if you can either talk to him or have him have his eyes on it. I know that's really one of his big interests. And since he's friends with Yellow Flash, I think Yellow Flash is into the same kind of stuff. So if you can get it in front of you get the PDF over to him, say, hey, check this out. It's horror. I've heard you like horror. He might, and I'm about to push a new book. When are you going to drop to Indiegogo?
I'm planning October 1st.
Okay.
So I'm thinking at that point, I think it'll be maybe quieter.
Yeah, don't do it too much later, because once you start getting into the holiday season,
Right.
I know a lot of people they had that issue.
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking too, I can play on the whole Halloween thing.
Yeah, I mean it's the perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say definitely. I know Umbrella Guy's a big horror fan. He watches all those kind of movies.
Yeah, I'll try and contact them. No problem doing that. I'll reach out to anybody at this point. I said I'll
talk to anybody.
I don't have any qualms of who it is.
Yeah, that's not like I said. I like some horror. It's not really my scene. I don't know who to recommend you to. But keep posting on Twitter, and keep just making sure you're. Oh, are you on Twitter yet? Because I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because we talked on Twitter, duh.
we sure did.
I would not, because somebody else asked me to have somebody on for a different show, and for some reason I confused it with you. Yeah, duh.
Yeah, I dropped.
You got a hold of me, but yeah,
the trailer on there for it.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and I'll yeah. I know I confused myself now because threw my whole head off. Yeah, because somebody contacted me the other day and they were like, "Hey, can you have so and so on?" He's like, "He's not on Twitter. You're gonna have to get a hold of email." I was like, "All right, send him my email. I'll talk to him and stuff." So that's I just got you two confused real quick. But yeah, definitely. Keep posting stuff. If I see it, if I see your post that you tweeted something, I'll retweet it whenever I get people on the show. And because I want to see everybody succeed and do good. So we want to get as many eyes on it as possible.
Yeah. I gotta find the right eyes.
Yeah. Well, exactly, and that's the other thing is, it's not really worth your time to like shotgun it, especially if you know how to focus it in to get to just the right people that are into it.
Yeah. That's another reason too. I wanted to kind of push it out a bit too. I know I need a kind of a window here that I've got to work out this part of it.
Well, it's good because this will help you kind of find that audience. You can put it out, and the people that'll be really interested will talk about it to the other people that are in that interest group.
All right.
So, you know what? I haven't even checked the chat in a while, so let me have a look. Gateway into Comics stopped by. I didn't even say hi to him. Sorry, Gateway. Let's see. The Metal said, "Get at those alternative Peter Simeti fans." Yeah, you know what? It's very similar in style. I mean, that was more of a comic than the style you're doing. Was the Chair? I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't. What was the name again?
It's called The Chair. It's by Alterna Comics. Peter Simeti wrote it, and it's a very similar style. He's very when he drew it, it's very like graphic, and well, his is graphic and really kind of sketchy, and yours has that kind of I want to say loose painted style. I don't want to sound insulting or anything because I think it looks good, but it's got kind of a really kind of graphic style.
I've seen this actually. I was looking at it not too long ago on their website. So okay.
Yeah, like he does comics. I don't know if he'd be interested in publishing, but I mean, anybody who's a fan of The Chair. So yeah, if you're a fan of The Chair, this is definitely it goes even darker. It goes it looks really good. I'm definitely going to finish reading it when I get a chance. See, you sent it to me and I didn't even catch it in my email box.
That's good.
All right. let's see. So let's go back. I didn't do hardly any actual sketching today. Let's go back and have another look at it. Let's see. Do that, and we'll do that. We really like. And it was. I really thought you had painted it. That's when I was looking at it. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But this is. I mean, this is really cool. It looks like it's painted and all scratched up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a huge library of textures that I'll work into these.
All right. I know you told me, or did you tell me ahead of time, or did you tell me on the show what you were using, what programs you were using to do this?
Oh, yep. So it's I use Photoshop Elements, and then Painter, Corel Painter, and Art Rage.
Okay. I don't want to give away too much because people check it. Where can they get a copy of this right now? Is it still available somewhere?
I think on Amazon. The developer who has the other half of the rights, we're trying to get a hold of Arcana to find out what happened with all the books. So
They got a warehouse full of books somewhere that they've never.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll cross that bridge, but to be honest, it's kind of in the back of my head to maybe do something with this, just the first book as it is, maybe adjusting it to for a digital format. I don't know, something.
See, on a page like this, I would almost put the text in something a little more. I don't want to say, yeah, well, kind of more comic booky. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just the type. If I were going to change anything, that's what I might see, because it's hard, because on a page like this, I mean, you want it to be readable and stuff, but you want it to kind of this page here is one work of art, and you want the lettering on it to be kind of to match the art. But I don't know how that would work with, because I know you've got some like this right here where it's off to the side. So I don't know. That's the one thing I would think of. But again, I don't know if possibly jumping around with the font is would be distracting too.
The funny thing with the book was actually, I did the whole thing for it to be square, and probably 2 weeks before I had to have it done and off to Arcana, they said, "Oh wait, we can't do a square book." I had to go in.
That's why you got this like this kind of stuff here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to reformat the whole thing. I was particularly happy about that. But
do you have all those files to reformat it back to being square if you wanted to do it that way?
I do. Looking at print costs, I'm kind of undecided if I want to do it how I originally wanted or just kind of run with it how it was. There's some edits and changes I'd be making to this one. It's like there's things that since you made it, you know that they're there and they bug you.
Yeah.
So it's like so I can fix some things that I'd like to. So
yeah, I just got. I've been bragging about it all the last couple of days. I just got my first story actually published in a little bitty mag, and it's cool. I mean, I didn't get paid for it or anything, but I mean, it's nice to just kind of have it out there.
Yeah.
And I was reading it over. I thought, I'd gone over it 4 or 5, 6 times, and then I'm reading it over in the book, and I'm like, oh, I noticed just little things that I should have noticed before. And it's not like spelling error. Well, I don't know. There's probably 1 or 2 in there, but it's like just little things like a repetitive phrase or a repetitive word or something. And I'm like, oh, I should have noticed that before. Now it's all in print.
Yeah. So I'd at a minimum, I would make some tweaks to it. this first story, and then
So,
and this is from years ago. too,
yeah,
so.
the only thing I might suggest, at least look into it, is if the words are going to be with the art, then then you should go with I mean, you want it readable, a readable font, but something that makes it really stand out and goes with the art itself.
Right.
That would be the only suggestion I would make.
No, makes sense.
But this, I've gone through the whole thing, so I don't want to. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that one for the thumbnail. That's a pretty cool one too. We'll see. We're gonna pick a picture out of here to put on for the YouTube for the YouTubes. All right. So let's see. So you're gonna put it out in October. There we go. All right. So we're going out in October, and how many pages is it going to be? You think?
I'm estimating right now around 170.
Okay. So if anybody who's watching this, if you're into horror, it's a really cool looking book. The art style is really cool. It's got a really kind of interesting story. Kind of takes your horror genre and turns it on its head a little bit. And it's definitely worth picking up. And David here is a really cool guy. So I want everybody to check out Lucas. Keep your eye out for it. If you see it and you know somebody that's into horror, definitely share it with them. Let everybody know, because again, how did the first one do? How did the first book do?
I honestly don't know. I never. It just kind of like I made this book. It got published. I was beating doors down to get reviews. I got a few reviews. I got this amazing review actually from Bloody Disgusting. I was really happy about it, and then it was just kind of like, what's going on? And that was that. They
never
Arcana had a. I don't know how long it was after, not like crazy long, but they at one point put together this. They had somebody do all these pictures of all their books, the Arcanaverse, and I remember. I think when I finally just kind of was like, lost it, was they had Lucas in there, and the picture that the artist drew, it wasn't even him.
Oh,
I was like, you've got to be kidding me! Like what?
They could have at least called you and say, "Hey, we need a little advertising art."
But it was a picture of a different character. I was like, "This is nuts. How disinterested could you be in your own product?"
You wouldn't even contact the creator and say, "Hey, we need a little promo art."
Yeah, but yeah, it's in the past. I'll leave it there. I got other plans for it now, so hopefully get this book done. Hopefully it works out, and then the goal is I want to get them in some other mediums too.
Yeah, this is this is something that could go in a regular bookstore as opposed to just well, obviously it's not a comic book, so that's probably where you're looking. But yeah, I want everybody to check this out. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
I want everybody to check this book out, especially if you're into horror, if you're into that really kind of that graphic kind of slashery stuff. The writing is really good too. That's one of the things. Knowing it's horror, I read that passage, and it was really good, very descriptive, very graphic, but it was a good read. So not just the art and not just it's slashery. The prose is really good. It's really well written. So I want everybody to check that out. I want to thank David for showing up today and coming on the show. Hope it wasn't too scary for you.
No, it wasn't too bad. I survived
it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my little pitch for my stuff. I got my little story published. It's just a little 3-page deal. Here's the book that it's going in. It's ashcan sized. It's ashcan press. My book is all the way in the back. My little story. but my picture for my story is what made the cover. So I'm super happy with that. We're gonna probably sell these for about $5. I've got like 30 copies. I'm gonna put aside some for friends and family. But for about $5, we just need to work out getting them to you in a inexpensive way that still protects the book and gets it to your door. Anybody who's interested, just I'll put out another announcement tomorrow once we figure out what we're. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Probably this weekend we'll figure out how we're going to mail this out and get it to you. Make sure it gets there in good shape. But keep your eye on it. Keep your eye on Lucas and David. I'm gonna have his Twitter. What's your Twitter?
It's at David Murdoch Art.
All right, at David Murdoch Art. We will
Murdoch
have that,
with a H, not a K.
DOCH.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have that. We'll have that. I think I might have it, but if not, I'll make sure it gets in the description. Everybody, keep your eye out on it. If you're into horror, make sure you tell all your other horror buddies. It's a really good looking book, and thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, y'all have a good night.